botches an abortion causing injury or death. No, it's so criminal prosecution is completely prohibited. The state could not bring a malpractice action against a physician. It really just green lights for this not to be prosecuted.
One of the questions that's so often been raised, just in the pro-life sphere, but really since all of this Proposal 3 conversation has come out, is about rape and incest. And so often at times that's thrown in our faces as pro-life advocates. And one of the things that Kara said so well is, and in so many crisis pregnancy situations, is that we save the baby and we love the mother. And so rape, they're two separate things, ultimately, but ultimately all the same. Rape is always a horror, it's always an evil. It is always to be prosecuted. And we heard the story that was thrown out into the media of the 10-year-old girl in Indianapolis who was raped and then driven into Ohio. What we didn't hear very much of is how that the Planned Parenthood Center, they're a mandatory reporter, and no one was ever arrested for harming the 10-year-old girl, to my knowledge, and that's the trauma. But what we do know is that in every instance that I've dealt with as a priest in dealing with those who have been sexually abused or molested, that taking or harming the pregnancy, taking the life of the unborn child, does not cover up the trauma of the rape. It never does. And the statistics that I've read, there are two major documented reports that have done decades-long research. There are only two decades-long research for women who have conceived in rape. And those two reports state that 8 out of 10 women who conceived in rape chose to keep the child. One thing that we don't talk enough about is adoption, and the great gift and the great sanctity, the great blessing that it is to mothers in need, and we need to know that. And so to terminate the pregnancy, to kill the child does not take away the reality that the child was raped. I am pro-life. My sisters up here are pro-life. Joe's pro-life. The reason why I'm pro-life is because I do not believe that harming a child at any point is morally acceptable. It is always murder. And so that does not take away what took place at the moment of that rape. Would you like to comment on that at all? Any comments on that?
I find that frequently when this argument is brought up, it's not because people actually believe that there should only be an exception for rape and incest. It's that they're pro-choice. They're pro-choice for the majority of the pregnancy. And they bring this up as kind of these really horrific stories of women who've been raped. But it seems to me that there isn't an actual concern. There's not follow-up in helping these women. It's just kind of put out there as an excuse for the other 90% of abortions that take place. And being in the pro-life movement, we're so blessed to have friends who've been conceived in rape and women who have conceived after being raped. And there's no denial of the violence that takes place during rape, and rapists should be punished, but innocent children certainly shouldn't be.
I think it also comes down ultimately also, it becomes a philosophical argument. And Erin was touching on this a little bit, that it becomes very philosophical about it is that the leftist movement, if you will, they're trying to philosophize about choice. Notice, even the title, pro-choice, we're using this title instead of pro-abortion, right? So there was a Protestant pastor, I just read his book, a very good book, and he said, you know what? He tours all over the country giving pro-life talks, and he said, you know what? He starts his talk every way. I am pro-choice. And the congregation kind of shudders. He says, I believe that it's my right, my choice to kill my 18-year-old son. And everyone's like, oh, Pastor, what do you mean? He said, well, if it's my choice to do that, when isn't it my choice to do that? And he really draws this delineation of again, philosophy. When does life begin in personhood? This is really, where Roe kind of understands personhood differently. And then in the philosophy of who we are, we've begun to define personhood of what? If it's not a child at the moment of conception, no matter the cause, even in vitro fertilization, which is immoral, even conception in a petri dish, which is immoral, it's a child. And so if it's a child and life has begun, then personhood is there. When is it a person? Is her beloved son, because he has Down syndrome, is he not a person? People would define that. Is this pastor's son only when he turns 18 or 21 when he can have a beer? Then do you become a person? And so when do we define that? Even in conceived in rape, it's still murder. You have one there.
I just would like to say that the pro-aborts, which is what I refer to them as, not pro-choicers, because they stole our words. So it's always pro-abortion. And I worked with polls many times during the election. I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman walking in, and I was handing out pro-life literature, and he said, oh, what are you passing out here? I said, pro-life. He said, well, I'm pro-choice. I said, well, thank you for choosing life. And he stopped me and he goes, that isn't what I said. I said, let's have a conversation, because choice, you're choosing life. So many times it's semantics, so it's very important to use your words wisely.
I can add something to this. So I had a good conversation. Actually, I'm a public school teacher, and I have conversations about abortion with my history class, believe it or not. And we have conversations relating slavery to abortion. And the language that abolitionists use, they actually embrace the term anti-slavery. And yes, I am certainly pro-life, but I'm certainly anti-abortion as well. And I think we can embrace both terms.
Go ahead, Joann.
This one question was, are there any medical conditions that an abortion might be considered necessary for the life of the mother, where the baby couldn't be born and given a chance at life instead of aborted, excluding ectopic pregnancy? I mean, there certainly are situations where if, say, toward the end of a pregnancy, or 24 weeks or 28 weeks, someone has untreatable high blood pressure that cannot be controlled and the mother is in danger, that we end a pregnancy but we save the baby. Sometimes they're too young to survive, but the choice has always been there that you save the life of the mother, but you don't throw the baby away. So there's been a lot of talk about ectopic pregnancies, that this would not be cared for, and that's not true. That is a very clear ethical decision, that a pregnancy that's going to kill the mother can be ended to save the mother's life.
On that same conversation about ectopic pregnancies, another thing that's been bantied around about, just to answer that question, is miscarriages termed and deemed as abortions. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, the medical language is kind of confusing for people, because miscarriages where the pregnancy dies or is being passed are called either spontaneous abortion or incomplete abortion or complete abortion. Those are medical words for a naturally ending pregnancy, versus elective abortion, which is what Prop 3 is talking about, which is, a conscious effort to kill a normal pregnancy.
It ultimately comes down to the conscious, active participation and willful act of harming the child that's within you, the fetus. Right? I'm actively choosing, not me, obviously. One is the female is actively choosing to terminate her pregnancy versus, illness, sickness, or natural miscarriage.
The question here is, who created the proposal? It was the ACLU and Planned Parenthood. And if it passes, could this lead to pregnancies with babies with a disability being forced to terminate? So it would be that the individual would then terminate the pregnancy. And because this green light such late-term abortion, it's certainly after the 20-week ultrasound when people typically receive these fetal diagnoses. So yes, this would lead to more children with physical disabilities being killed in the womb.
Do you have one more?
Okay, I have one more question. Will Catholic hospitals close if Proposal 3 passes? I would have a concern about Catholic hospitals. I would have a concern about non-Catholic hospitals because the right to conscience to object to participating in a procedure that is against your ethical code has been codified in the state law, and Proposal 3 takes that away, says that no one shall discriminate against the individual who wants to exercise their reproductive rights. So I think that there will be a lot of medical professionals of all stripes who will be forced to choose between their job and their ethics, and I fear that we will lose an awful lot of workers because of that.
One of the things, not to get again in depth with philosophy, one of the things that we are seeing so much again with this proposal is that it's based in the philosophical philosophical understanding of emotionalism, the philosophical fallacy of emotionalism. And so it's rooted in just tugging at people's emotions. This is what we're going to lose. This is what's going to happen. Women's rights are being taken away. What about the great right of giving birth? And so our emotions are at play. And I think Kara can really speak, who's the CEO of this beautiful center, she can speak too of what it's like to see the other side of emotion. I mean, Mary shared with us her heartbreaking story of being a post-abortive woman. Kara, do you have a beautiful story just to share with us of a mother that you've helped care for along the way? Just to help us to understand that great side of what you do.
There's a few. The success stories come in different shapes and forms because we're all on a different journey.
Are you done with
So some of the success stories would be being able to walk them through the decision of wanting to carry their child, and just not a want, but also being able to show them their value and worth in Christ, and just by coming alongside them and loving on them and providing for them. Some of them have never been loved or given a hug. A lot of them coming out of human trafficking situations or abusive parents. They don't even have that simple "I love you" or "have a good night," or have a prayer said over them. So those small successes are what carries us through, and I believe that's what carries them through as well. As far as a material or life skills successes, we've had women graduate from their GED program, women in college currently, women purchasing their first vehicle, getting their first job, voting this November 8th. Like, they've never had somebody walk through with them and get them to these basic steps, and never had a mother to come alongside them. Spiritual successes is being able to witness their baptisms. We've had a few baptized, so those types of things that Again, our successes in our different walks of life are different, but being able to walk alongside them is a wonderful and humbling experience.
Praise God. Praise God.
I have a question that I can answer. Are there more coordinated grassroots efforts being conducted door to door about Prop 3 in the last 2 weeks here, heading into the election? I can tell you that this weekend, Saturday morning, I'll be in Bowles Harbor if you want to join me. I'll be going door to door. It's a very big neighborhood. I've already got the first street done. I did it last weekend, but now it's going to be helpful if you could join me in those efforts. It'd be a great way to kind of demonstrate our work here. So.
The question is, so if Prop 3 doesn't pass, will there ever be a chance for abortion in Michigan for those looking for abortions under certain circumstances? So the reality is that there's 2 injunctions in place right now in the courts that say that there's a constitutional right in the Michigan Constitution to abortion. Those cases will ultimately be decided by the Michigan Supreme Court. And in the Michigan Supreme Court, as we know from the 5-2 decision that allowed this to be on the ballot, and the fact that 4 of the justices out of 7 received funding from the Democratic Party when they were elected, that they have the majority of the votes. So the reality is that most likely those opinions will be upheld. So we have a fight on our hands with that, but it's a better fight at least than the fight against this proposed constitutional amendment. I think one thing that's really interesting is that the ACLU, after they won their injunction, said, "Oh my goodness, this is such a huge victory. Look at this, abortion is legal in Michigan, it's part of the Michigan Constitution." And then they turned around and instilled fear in their pro-abortion audience and said, "No, you have to vote yes on this proposal. This proposal, the difference between this and injunctions that are in place, late-term abortion, getting rid of parental consent, getting rid of the physician requirement, health and safety regulations being even worse. Those are the differences. I don't know why anyone who's even pro-choice would vote in favor of Proposal 3.
Which is a really staggering comment. I've had a number of people who have come to me. I've been pretty outspoken, as I've said, in all of that, and with our last event, a number of people who came to me who were really moved by Mary's testimony. 3 post-abortive women since then have come to talk and come back to confession and just to talk. And so first of all, I mean, if that's you or anyone you know, come to your priest, come to your pastor. The Lord moves hearts. And what's so scary too is that this takes away that freedom of conscience too for doctors or nurses who are men and women of faith. Even if they might say they're pro-choice, a lot of people in our pews unfortunately say, "Well, I'm opposed. I would never have an abortion, but I can't tell anyone what they should do." But they would never think, if they're a doctor or nurse, to perform one. Now they don't have the ability to say no, which is horrifying. And so even a pro-choice, or even a Catholic who calls themselves pro-choice, a Christian who calls himself pro-choice, they should vote no on Proposal 3. Why don't you think about it, sister?
This question, when handing out vote no pamphlets, can you go to a neighborhood that has an association with a sign of the name of the association and then private on it? And can you leave a pamphlet at a house that has a sign that says no solicitation? I would just advise, be respectful of people's property and their privacy. And if someone's posted that they don't want you on their property, try a different route. Because I get a lot of phone calls and late night calls with bad situations. So if you can get to these individuals through a different creative path, please do.
We had a lot of law questions.
This one, who pays for a minor's sterilization or gender-affirming hormone treatments? That's a very good question. It could be taxpayer money. That's certainly provision that's underneath the actual language of the proposed constitutional amendment. We really have yet to find out.
On that topic, though, kicking it back to you, Doctor, a lot of people might not, especially with this audience, you know, some of us don't even have cell phones, some of us aren't on the computer, some of us don't watch the news. We may have never even heard the word of hormone therapy or hormone blockers. What does that mean?
In the case of, say, a child who wishes to be another gender than they were born, people would treat them with medication to stop their own sex hormones from being secreted, so that they basically would postpone puberty and then substitute the hormones of the child's desired gender later, all of which can have, you know, marked effects to delay puberty, changes bone mass, changes height, changes brain development, and then to substitute other sex hormones also changes brain development. So all this could now, under this law, be done under the recommendation of a high school teacher to your child without consent of the parent.
Too confusing, too extreme, right? What does this have to do with Roe versus Wade? We've been lied to, and they just continue to perpetuate the lies.
I just wanted to add that starting in May, Planned Parenthood in Michigan started supplying these drugs.
Gosh.
And presently on their website, they're so bold, they say that they currently require that an adult come in.
Wow.
And it's currently for only adults.
That's amazing.
So you can see what their plan is.
Yeah.
Isn't it true that under Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton, the state could not prevent a third trimester abortion if the health of the mother, including mental health, was at stake? So it allowed for, in the third trimester, the state to place regulations on abortion. And here in Michigan, the regulations in place are the age of quickening. So that's about 20 to 24.
No, 16 to 20 weeks.
Oh.
When you first feel the baby move, 16 to 20 weeks.
So that's the present law. That's how it's been, and that's where we're at.
Oh, wow. We do have to wrap it up. Erin has a couple more legal questions. Maybe she can look at that and just sum it up just in one, if not. But I just want to throw back to all four of the panelists. You know, in your own particular, not expertise, but your own particular background, you know, in a brief 1 minute or 2 sentence snippet, what is some advice or, again, recommendation that you can give to our people to help them be confident to promote the no vote?
One thing that's been weighing on my heart throughout this whole panel process has been we need to start teaching our youth, yes, their value more than Christ, but also abstinence, the importance of abstinence, and teaching that moral will help a lot of the situation. We want to teach them the consequences of having sex outside of marriage, and you know, allowing consequences, and then being there to pull them up when they need that. I can't imagine what's going to happen with our pregnancy centers offering medical care to our community if this proposal goes through. I can't fathom it. So we need to, again, tell at least 5 people, educate them, and be informed yourself. So thank you.
I just want to say that I have never given up hope, and no one here should either, to ever give up hope regarding this proposal. You know, I live with my decisions every day, that I make the wrong decisions. I can't even imagine a parent thinking a gender reversal, and that child decides that gender reversal was wrong, having to live with that, just one instance would be horrific. So, as you said, I can't imagine what will happen if this goes through, but someone said to me the other day, God's not nervous and neither am I. So there you go.
So, is your name Joe? Yes. Do you want to come up? I know you wanted me to say something regarding how difficult it is to reverse the constitutional amendment, but I would give you the
Sure.
floor first.
We have 110 people in the House. Right now we have 58 Republicans. It takes 85 votes to change the Constitution. We will never get more than one Democrat if we're lucky at all. So if this passes, this will never be changed in our lifetime. Never.
Just want to stress how important it is to do everything possible that we can and to reach out to those 5 people. And then if you get someone who agrees with you, ask them to reach out to 5 more people. And I said that just the first time that we sat down for a panel discussion, and then I realized how perfect that was with the 5 decades of the rosary. So please go out and spread the word. Thank you.
And I guess coming from that family that argues for sport, I would just stress again, kind of trying to talk about the things that we can agree on, that this is bad for children, bad for parental consent, bad for safety, and it will negate a lot of laws that were carefully made. And those are things that people can agree on, whether they're pro-choice or not.
I've been a priest for 10 years, and I've known Mary for that decade. She was a parishioner at my parish, and I've heard her give her testimony umpteen times, long and short and private and in public, and I'm always moved by it. Because I've heard so many of those stories privately that no one else knows about. And what I do know also is that abortion affects the Catholic community. And my own sister had a child, got pregnant before she was married. And a lot of times, as my dear sister Kara was saying too, that we need to teach abstinence, and we don't always live it perfectly. None of us live it perfectly. But what we have to realize is that when our own families find ourselves in crisis pregnancy, that we're pro-life at that moment also. We don't look at our grandson or our great-grandchild or great-granddaughter or our own daughter or son and become disappointed with them or disgusted or angry. Sure, our hearts might be affected differently, but we love them. And our response in love helps them know that they're not broken, they're not disappointments, right? And so we're pro-life even when it hits us at home. And so be bold during these next 2 weeks. We got 2 weeks until the election. Many of our own constituents, many of our own people have already voted by absentee, but a lot of people haven't. The latest polling statistics said that it's, first of all, the gubernatorial race is a dead heat, even, especially after the debate yesterday. But, my opinion only, that Proposal 3 is at 51% yes, 49% no. Earlier, it was 70 yes, 30 no. We're making ground because of events like this, because you received the courage, you're emboldened to go back and to share with 5 other people, and to share the video that we recorded, or go back and just share the one from St. Joseph, and just get the word out and encourage people to vote no.
So I will finish it tonight with this question. Will tonight's session be available for viewing on any websites? Unfortunately, my phone died while filming this, so we got the first portion of this, but we'll share the previous video that Father did at St. Joe's, for sure.
Great.
A few closing comments in regards to, some things we're going to do here. Well, first of all, I want to mention there is an incredible event happening January 21st at Monroe Knights of Columbus. It's for Selah Center. It's a dueling piano event. The tickets will go very fast. You want to grab tickets right now? I already bought a table, so you want to buy a table now. Also, we're going to do a free will offering for Kara's Selah Center right now. So we're going to go ahead and have the baskets go around, and if you want to contribute to Selah Center right now, you can do that. And then finally, you've made it this long, you can make it for another 30 minutes. Please join us for the reception afterwards in the Parish Life Center. Thank you again for everyone coming. God bless.
God bless you. May Almighty God bless the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.